backup recording.
Recording in progress.
Okay, good. I'd like to call to order the August meeting of the Oregon City Library Board. In attendance are Heidi Blackwell, Cynthia Andrews, Larry Osborne, Lisa Riskovich, myself, Bill Carton, and Lori Spinagle are with us via Zoom, and Greg Williams and Denise Butcher, our staff that are attending. And I want to welcome Al Pateco, who's the chair of LDAC, and who will speak up about the task force shortly. First order of business is the approval of the minutes of June 25th. Any comments or corrections? Anybody?
They were excellent.
Okay, note that, please.
I.
Great. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved for approval.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Good. Thank you so much. Any public comments?
No.
No. Okay. So we're going to skip the library director's report because I want to get into the course and allow Al to share a little bit about what his perspective, and then I'm going to join in with my perspective as well. So, Al.
Well, thank you all very much for being here. To begin with, I want to shout out to Greg. About 6 years ago, LDAC started working on a library district task force. And you used to have Nick. Remember Nick?
Yeah.
And we put this wonderful book together. I don't know if anybody has ever seen this, but this was really, Greg took our thoughts and ideas, did a wonderful job coalescing into this. So we had a meeting in January of 2020, and we thought this is going to be great. We're going to break. We had the idea of 70 people break into 3 different groups. And within those groups would have wonderful thoughts and ideas, and each group would take a different segment. But our next meeting was going to be in early April. Well, COVID hit, and this sort of went literally and figuratively out the window. So we meandered around. We had some Zoom meetings, we had other meetings, but we didn't really hit the nail in terms of what we were still trying to do. So about 2 years ago, we brought this up again. We said, we really need to figure this out and move, because libraries, some are struggling, some are successful. There are haves and have-nots in the library, both in the county. Is it 13 libraries, Greg? 13 libraries.
Yes.
Some of them are exceptional. So what we did, and I don't know if all of you have a copy of this. So in June of 2023, we authored this letter. Has anybody ever seen this letter?
We've seen it, but Nick
Okay.
presented it to us.
Okay. So that was 2 years ago. And what we asked is concerns about district funds, how they should be used. Can they be used for capital expenses? Can they be used for administrative costs? And then we also said, how can we reduce? Some libraries said we have debt service. Can we use it for debt service? So we had a lot of thoughts there, and we put that together, and that was 2 years ago. Well, I went to the county administrator. I met with Gary Schmidt. He said, well, we're going to take this to the board, and finally went to the board a year later. And then in December of last year, there was a group of about 5 or 6 of us. You were there, weren't you, Greg? Yes, you were in December of last year. We had the mayor, Andy, we had Greg, we had some other people. We had Doris. I don't know if anybody knows Doris Grover. Doris was a long-term library director within the county system, and then when Happy Valley split out to Happy Valley. But she had the remembrance of what happened when we all formed in 2008, and the Estacada Library had their funds. We had to work through those things in the county before every library could sort of get money, and then we passed the major, there's a 3310 to say everybody gets money based on population, based on their tax rate, both for in-city and then also the unincorporated areas. So we looked at all that, and then in December, Gary said, let me take a look at this and see what we can do. So the idea then was he formed a task force. There are 10 people on the task force. I am one of 10. There's 2 library directors. There's 2 city managers. There's 2 city mayors. I represent basically LDAC, and we have another lady who represents unincorporated areas. She's on the Wilsonville Library Board. And then we also have Rick, I don't know if anybody knows Rick Peterson, who's doing the job that Greg used to do. And that's the Link Services Director. Is that the proper term, Greg?
Yeah. The manager of the Link Library.
And also Gary Schmidt, County Administrator. So we came up and we started saying, what is it we can do? And Craig, I don't know if you could pull the first thing up about those three areas. Because I know you sent them all out. I appreciate what Greg sent in, the initial package. And if you have any questions, by all means, interrupt me at any time. Because I want to make sure everybody's on the same page, so to speak.
I feel like we've had this background before. Like, you know, like,
Sorry, okay.
so I'm glad that, yeah, it's
No.
a good review, but
Okay.
I mean, I feel informed from,
Yeah,
Okay.
we presented.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
So,
I don't want to go over, you know,
fine.
yeah.
things. Okay. I'm just looking for the three things that.
Are those the ones they mean, the category service funding and governance?
Yes.
Yeah. I have to go find the.
It would be from the last meeting, I want to say. Greg is what I was hoping.
Oh, the last task force meeting?
Yes, because that's where we want to really.
Yeah, we sent them out.
Yes, you had sent out because I got all the packets for every time to set up. That's the meeting, yes.
Yeah, you've got it in your packet.
Recommendation A, B, C, and D.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I thought you meant that, yeah.
No, that's
The recommendations, okay, yeah, and all of our board members have.
So the recommendations, and I hopefully you've had a chance to look at those and can discuss a little bit more, or if you have any questions or concerns. If you look at the recommendations, they're well thought, the task force did. The only consideration I would ask you is to look at the dates of how some of these are spread out. Some of them we're talking about 2028, and that's in essence 2.5 years from now. My personal thought, and this is separate from the task force, is that's a long time. And I fear that the traction that we're trying to get now would just fall by the wayside, as I've told David. The last meeting, at the end of it, I just said, we can't delay this any longer. There are libraries in jeopardy right now. There are some who say, there are some who say, well, you know, hold on just a minute, we're all right, but others are not. So we have to figure out a way to help those in need. There are going to be different thoughts, different ideas will come to the forefront. But right now, we want to look at those 4 areas. And follow them up, Greg. The first one is about the recommendations of administrative costs. Hopefully that's going to go to the board and they're going to say it's up to each library board, the library director and city to say, how do we want to spend those funds? I should not in Happy Valley tell Oregon City, oh, by the way, you shouldn't be buying these things and instead you should be putting it here. I don't think that's my role, whether it's an LDAC or it's just as a citizen. It's your role as a board to look at those budgets and say, is this where we want to spend it or not? It's not designed for outside people because the money comes to Oregon City. Last I saw, it didn't come to Happy Valley for me to comment on how Happy Valley is funding Oregon City. So the first one you'll see recommendation, that really should be done by, I would hope by this December, to say it's up to each library, city board and library city director and their city managers, city councilors to say, how's that funded? What it is.
And that was brought up before and it didn't go the way it needed to go or was supposed to go. And so this is just, again, asking
You are right. It's been brought up time and time again. And Greg has sat through meetings where this goes on and on. For about 7 years now that I've been on LDAC, it's always been a bone of contention for some people, especially when we look at the end reports. Well, you're spending dollars on administrative costs. There is a cost to run a library. There is a cost for Greg to hire people. He just doesn't open the doors and people, oh, okay, there's 5 applicants, I just choose you.
Yeah.
He's got to run those things. HR has to be involved. City people have to be involved. I'm sure you have a city fire department. If there's ever emergency, call them. City police, city services. If there's a sewer problem, electrical problem, the city probably provides that help. So as a result, some cities do take a portion of that for administrative costs. I don't have a problem with that because that's your library to decide, not me. So I think we'll go through hopefully by the end of this year. And then B, if you could pull that up.
Can you help me understand what in a few words, has been the opposition to the recommendation A?
They look at 3310 and it's cloudy, the language. The one part of it says that no administrative costs can be borne by this. And then there's an exception, except those administrative costs that the library needs in essence. So the idea, some people always say, well, you can't spend it on any of those services. The city has to provide those services. The money for the library goes to the library, not towards administrative costs. But it's very confusing. And I don't know if you have that little portion there. You asked a good question because it says, I want to find that. This has gone on so long.
And it also says the funds could be used for operating the library. The notion of operating.
The language is unclear still. That's what I'm trying to
Yes,
get.
because it's in the ballot measure, so it's not changed.
Yeah,
right.
So,
Right, okay.
So it's a little bit confusing. Each city should be responsible for developing library services based on their needs. Districts may not be used to support general overhead or administrative costs, except to the extent such overhead or administrative costs are directly related to the library.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a,
yeah.
it's sort of like, well, you can't use that money for administrative costs unless it helps the library. So in other words, we don't want to fund cities like Oregon City says, we're going to take $5 million from your budget over 5 years to cover all of our options. You can use that money for administrative costs for the library, but nowhere else.
Right. They don't want to go potholes.
But there are some people that just read that first line and say, you can't use that for administrative costs. So we're just trying to put that in writing. Yes, you can use that for administrative costs. Yes, you can use that for the purpose of capital improvement. For instance, there are people that say if you have, let's say your air conditioning goes out in this building, there are those who say you can't use library funds to fix that. It's up to the city to pay for that. Well, Greg has to apportion money to say, yeah, we need to put some money aside in case those things happen. You can't expect the city to cover it and say, oh, well, yeah, your air conditioning system. So that's a capital improvement. Might not seem like a capital improvement unless you're here on a hot, sweaty day. That's the capital improvement, have air conditioning fixed. So things like that have always been a discussion. There are some people who feel that all this money should be library money. It should not cover administrative costs. It should not cover capital improvements. Correct me if I'm wrong, Greg. That's always been done.
That is a very good high level summary of it. Yes.
So
Thank you.
no, it's a good question. So moving on. So hopefully A will take care of that. And then B, recommendation B, they want libraries to basically do what's your core level of service? There are some people who think all libraries, and it has been brought up, should have the same core level of service. In other words, every library should be open the same amount of hours at the same time. That's interesting concept, probably unfeasible, because you probably look at how your population uses the library. If you have, you're close to Oregon City Community College, like community college, you might have people, Greg might say, hey, we have a large amount of people that come here at 7 o'clock tonight for the college who want to do things, study here or whatever. Someone else might say, after 6 o'clock, no one shows up to our library. It's more of a day. So it's up to each library director and his staff and folks like yourself to say what should be the hours, what should be the 4 hours of service that we have. And other things such as, okay, should every library, when we look at that, should the core level of service, should it be, we have X number of things in Spanish or X number of things in Russian or X number of things in Chinese. Those decisions really should be made locally by your library, not what. So anyway, they want to look at analysis to say, let's bring on a consultant to look at those things like that.
And that would be through the county would
The
cover
county
that
would do
cost.
not the
Yeah.
library, the county would do that.
That's not clear to me.
Yes, I
Yeah.
have to interject.
I asked that
Has not
question
been-
last time.
has
They
not
said
been
they didn't know
determined.
how the consultant would be funded.
Well,
Yeah,
sure.
that's
I mean,
not
because they're cheap
not
north.
That's not clear.
It's an idea. We don't
Yeah.
even know if that would float.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so if
Thank
you
you.
look at C would be the service boundaries and the how do we fund it formula. And this is the big crux of the matter is how do we fund libraries for now and in the future? Is this the sufficient 39 cents per thousand of assessed value proper or should be higher?
I'm not sure that that's covered there. I disagree, Al. I think that this is really the formula and the boundaries. It has nothing to do with future revenue.
Well, you're right, but it would look at what is the right funding formula.
The formula.
However, once again, it's hiring a consultant to do the analysis to say, come back to say, maybe the funding analysis, the funding formula doesn't work. Maybe the unincorporated area doesn't work. Maybe the city doesn't work in terms of how much money is coming in. So the idea is, great point, David, it would be up to a consultant then that the county hasn't even hired a consultant or hasn't even looked at it. They don't even know how they would do it. It would be a consultant. And remember, this is just a recommendation that would go to the board of the library board, which is in essence, the county commissioners.
This consultant would be accountable to the county commissioners.
Correct.
Well, the district board, which is effectively the county commissioners, right?
It would be, yes, Greg, yeah.
I'm sorry, I am doing my very best to stay out of it. This is your time to discuss with Al.
Jump in, because you've been a part of this for a long time.
And this is the one that caused me the most pressure. The thing I want to say is that the library directors have had a conversation about this same one, and I believe that their feedback will be given at the next task meeting. But I believe there is a unanimous feeling amongst library directors that this recommendation on its own does not include looking at future funding. And from what Tony Meyernick, the county policy advisor, he explicitly stated that this was not looking at funding levels. It was only looking at dividing up the current funding in different ways. So, which caused me concern, but this is your discussion now.
When I look at funding formula, though, I think eventually it's going to come out to say we don't have enough money. And part of you might disagree, and that's fine. But I look at it as saying, if you talk about analysis of the funding formula, eventually you're going to say, are we getting enough money and how much is enough that will fund the libraries?
I think that is that's a question, but when Tony and Shelley, I think last night, they explicitly said that discussion would not come until after the strategic, after the next.
Oh, I understand.
Just cutting up the pie in different ways.
We aren't there yet. But really, recommendation D should come before some of these other things. Because recommendation D is creating the strategic plan. Well, I know the library directors have already working on this, but the recommendation D, and they say hire a consultant once again. It's sort of like, just hire a consultant. But recommendation D would be taking a strategic plan to say, where should libraries be, over the next 5, 10, or 20 years? Because if we look at 2008, that was 17 years ago. So where should the libraries be? How are they going to change over time? And think not just of products, but also people and service population and growth of the county. I don't know what the county's, and someone might know here, what the county can look like in 20 years in terms of population growth. And you have to factor those things in. So when you do a strategic plan, it's not just what you have now, but also what you anticipate you're going to have in the future. The one thing I would say is that's by July 28th. That's right. That's 3 years in essence from now.
That's ridiculous.
And
Really?
before you talk about any money or going back for a, let's say, levy increase, whatever you want to call it, you have to have this work done. So at the earliest, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, that you're talking about 2028. Well, that's a presidential election. We don't want to do anything that year.
Oh, no, you do want to, as somebody who just went through a whole bond thing,
So then you want to talk about 2029, 2030. I fear that you're just putting this so far out. This is just me speaking. This is not the task force. And I mentioned this task force. I said, you could probably hire or get 8 to 10 people and say, you've got a month to do this stuff. And that's going to be your full-time job. And in a month, you're going to create a strategic plan. You're going to handle these other things too. You're going to get this analysis done. You're going to put it to bed. I really believe that could be done. If you've ever worked on strategic planning, and I know David worked in that in hospitals, I did that in the Air Force, it can be done. If you can say, we're going to make a commitment, and I mentioned to Shelley, they should hire people then to say, we're going to hire people from the county already who are already invested in libraries, and we're going to put them and say, you've got 30 days, here's what is needed. Having said that, That is not what recommendation D calls for. Recommendation D calls for it to be done by 2028. So once again, it's hiring a consultant to draft a plan and then work with the governance and things like that. So in a nutshell, I would say that it's great that the task force has been there. There have been some flaws, obviously. One of them is not enough unincorporated people probably on that group. Having said that, I think we're all vested in making sure the library is cared for now and into the future. So now I will turn it over to David, and he can talk about what issues, or let me know what the thoughts of your group has been.
Well, I've attended all of the task force meetings silently because they don't take any public comment. All of my facial expressions have been particularly silent at times.
That means that you're
I mean, people took it seriously. It was well facilitated. People participated, and I mean, people behaved. It was done well until the last meeting, and then they came up with these recommendations, which I think are just off the wall and wrong. And I've given you a draft here of a letter that I want to give to Al for our feedback through LDAC. And I'd like your blessing on it. So let's take a few minutes and just look at this. As I say, I think it was done effectively, although I don't think the recommendations will sustain or improve our libraries. I really worry about this kind of delay creating a bureaucratic rabbit hole that libraries are going to start fighting with each other about boundary issues, about formula issues. Plus, to change the formula takes 100% of the cities, literally the city councils to approve. And to change the boundaries takes 2/3. So we're talking about a process that makes no sense unless there's new funding. LDAC had sent the letter that Al referenced and that we've looked at before to the county a couple of years ago. And I just think the county, they've gotten their legal counsel to look at the wording, and they have given the recommendation to the district board that in fact capital expenses, if it's to improve the libraries and support the libraries, are totally acceptable, and allocated costs are if they're reasonable. I think the district, all they have to do is send a letter back to LDAC saying they don't need to change the IGAs. They just need to send a letter saying we've looked at this, our council's given us this advice, we think this is fine. End of story, unless somebody filed a lawsuit. If they do, they do. I mean, I think that solves it, and you don't have to go to the cities. I'm very worried about spending capital, political capital, dealing with city commissions on issues that have no impact. Zero impact at all. And yet city commissions who are not familiar with this stuff are going to be looking at 2 or 3 different times they're going to be gone to about library issues that don't matter. And so that concerns me. I think there are some equity issues with the formula. Clearly there are when you look at the difference of funding. And there's some real boundary issues that are very real, that the populations have shifted, and maybe the boundaries weren't exactly right to begin with. I mean, you never know that until the future. But unless we deal with it in the context of additional funding, we're going to have, we're going to be fighting the can-be. People are going to just go into, and nobody's going to benefit from that. There's going to be winners and losers if, in fact, it even gets that far. I think there's going to be a lot of noise. And we're going to have our city commissions that are not know what to do with this. I think the conclusion I came to, and it really was a light bulb moment, is that we do not have a county library system. We have a city library system that's very well supported by the county. And that's a very different model. And consequently, the governance is by 11 different cities and the county, because they run 2 libraries. So we have that. We've got at least 10 different bargaining, union bargaining contracts that affect levels of service and hours and overtime and all, and budgets. You cannot determine this from a body that doesn't have governance over the operation of the library. They have governance only over whether the revenue is collected properly and then distributed properly according to the agreements, the master order that's put in place. I think delaying this, my guess is 4.5 years at the best if they follow these things is crazy. Right now, cities are under incredible tax and revenue difficulties. So, from the school board, we lost $375,000 difference from the last biennium to this biennium in our budget process. Not because we thought the city was unreasonable, it's just that they had to find funds someplace in order to pay for police and everything else that they have to pay for. And that's only going to get worse with Oregon's tax laws being what it is. I met with our city manager recently and he just rolled his eyes and we got through this one, but the next one's going to be a hell of a different process. And so every library is going to be squeezed and looked at seriously. If you look at our 39 cents per thousand, that pales compared to Multnomah County, which is at $1.22 per thousand, and in a very different library system. And that is a county library system where all the employees are county employees, et cetera. I'm committed, and I've said personally, I'm committed to forming a political action committee as soon as possible to actually look at doing a new levy. And yes, we need to have, in the context of a new levy, have discussions about whether to revise the formula, which will be very difficult to do because there's going to be really losers. And to look at the boundary issues. I have no difficulty with that. And I think we need to bring in an outside consultant, which they used before, to look at how do you structure a new levy? What should be the amount be? What's the best timing of it, whether it's the presidential or even before that? There's pros and cons to all of that in terms of voter participation. Although in Oregon, we have very high voter participation compared to the country, assuming mail-in ballots still exist. That's my sense. And so I've drafted this and I'd like the board to just look at it, and I appreciate a motion or comments for sure. Let's have a discussion. And then I'd like to submit this to you to submit to the task force, and particularly to Paul, so that he sees sort of what our sense of things are. So
I guess that is my question, just knowing the commissioners, and there's been turnover on that. Is there any feeling on what their support for?
Well, we really don't know, other than one of the commissioners who was an ex-librarian, I believe. Who was that? Martha, yeah. And she's ready to form a political action. She was on a video at the first task force meeting saying, let's get going with this. So at least we've got an advocate and a support there. I just worry about this thing dealt with in piecemeal fashion. Then we got politics and all sorts of other stuff that come into play, which I think is inappropriate. So,
David, I so appreciate what you wrote. I think it is thoughtfully put together, and I think you highlighted a lot of the issues that we're just going to drag this out if we don't address the real problem of the funding. And so I think it's a great letter. So I would put it on the floor for discussion or motion to have it go. Whichever you need.
The motion on the floor. Just have a second.
Is she making a motion?
That's what I heard.
Yeah. Yes, I'm making a motion to send the letter.
A second. Oh, great. Thank you. Let's have the discussion. So, any other comments, concerns? Do you disagree with any of this?
I feel like I agree with you that the timeline on the strategic plan is way too far out there. And that all this discussion about money and this and that and the other could set the whole thing on fire before we ever have a chance to really talk about it in a reasonable way with the public and our various political constituencies. And so that really concerned me. I sat in on the thing last night and I thought, well, this is like, this is going to go down in flames before it ever gets a chance. And I'm quite concerned about that. So,
and I suggest people take a look at the successful bond measure that passed in Vancouver recently for libraries. Okay. Their material was brilliantly put together. This is what happens now. This is what will happen if we don't get the funding. This is what will happen if we do get the funding. And that's what we need to put together, is an analysis that so the public understands what the future sustainability of our libraries are. So any other comments, or did Greg any?
I'm trying to let.
I know you.
I will truly say that there is nothing that has been discussed here that I do not agree with. It's a concern. I will certainly say that I personally, and I believe my library director colleagues, we've been on record since 2018 saying that the funding, that all of these other things are merely symptoms of a lack of funding. So the questions about allocated costs and capital and standards and this, it all gets back to the same issue, is that the pie is too small. And trying to divide the pie in different ways, or determining how you're going to use the pie for rearranging deck chairs on the ship, right? So I think there's a strong sense that any discussion of the future of library services in Clackamas County really needs to include the funding component and what level is necessary to provide the services that folks need. I certainly agree with the timing, as you all know, and I'm in the process of redoing it based on what's happened with yeah, I'm not sure where the music's coming from. It's pleasant. I'm redoing our 10-year financial forecast, updating it, and as we talked about, we're good for a few years, and we're not. And with what we've seen with the budget and knowing what their capacity for general fund contributions are going to be, the budget process has not happened, but all I will say is that it would not surprise me if that trend continues, and that the city is, as David says, is unable to continue, that the level of general fund support, which is now, there's more that we're paying in allocations than we're getting, but I can certainly see the general fund pressures increasing to the point that there might not be any general fund dollars coming over.
I agree. One of the issues, I come from a strategic planning background, and I have strategic plan 2 national health services, hospitals and large medical institutions, probably 300 plans over my career. And so I'm an advocate of that. We've got a very robust one here that we as a board have approved and worked on. But to do a strategic plan for a non-entity, that if there is no system, is foolishness. The directors have come together and have created a really wonderful sort of approach to how to better cooperate within the system. And that makes sense to me. But, these recommendations, I was livid, literally sitting through that last meeting. Just I could barely stay in my seat because they're saying, you missed the whole point here. And it pushed it out. So
I think your 5th paragraph here really, the fact that you don't have county library systems, right, is the source of all the problems, really, because if you've got one group of people who are making decisions on one basis and another group of people who are looking at something entirely different and thinking that theirs is the only way, nothing gets done. It's just
there are frustration.
Yeah. So I think you put your finger on it right there.
Thank you. All right. Well, can we have then just a vote of the board to, in fact, authorize me to give this to Al officially, and then to have him submit it as part of the comments to. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It says draft, it is no longer a draft.
We'll get it sent to you.
Yeah.
When I was at county library, I ran exactly the same system and we had exactly the same problems.
Yeah. Well, I maybe a little, I talked to David, and some of this is by design, right? When the district passed, there were discussions like what kind of library system do we want? And there were questions, do you want a strong county system like Multnomah has? And the answer was absolutely not. That is not what we feel serves our communities the best. It doesn't serve the fact that we have libraries located where they are already. And so it was this idea of, there's significant city autonomy, and there's pros and cons to that. But sometimes trying to I do worry that trying to put a countywide model on what we actually have, right, is challenging.
Well, it doesn't make any sense because the governance, it's got to follow the governance, and the governance is city governance to operate the library. So, okay, thank you so much.
Al, do you have any other questions that you have of our board? Is there any other?
I appreciate David. I appreciate all your time and effort looking at this. I would agree. I think every city has their own library. it's not, yes, it's part of the county in terms of how they're serviced in many ways, but every city is responsible for their own library. That's why, like I said, I don't want to get into your business of money for your library. And then I thought Vancouver, you're right, they were very strategic and then barely passed. It was like 52-48. So it wasn't like 70% of the public said, yeah, we want to fund libraries, because there are always going to be people who say, hey, I'm paying enough in taxes.
Sure.
And
I don't use the library.
or I don't use the library,
Yeah.
right? But in Happy Valley, they often say we have the lowest tax structure in the state among the lowest. But then we have a levy for fire, we have a levy for police, or we have a levy for parks. We're going to have an upcoming levy for a community center, and then we have, so all these levies do add up, even though they aren't part of our tax base. So anytime there's an increase of levy, or you say, the one nice thing is the 39 cents, according to the county attorney, sort of grandfathered in. So what we'd be looking at is increasing, if we ever get there, increasing a levy, so you don't lose this. Let's say it comes to a vote in a year or 2 years. We should want to move, I'm throwing a number out, 60 cents. You don't lose the 39 cents if it doesn't pass, which is the good news. So
The library bonds tend to pass. And they really do.
So
They have really all around the state. And the sales did, and we've seen that. So, okay, that's it.
the one thing I liked about the libraries, all have great reputation. All have reputations as inclusiveness. Everybody's always welcome. We look for equity in how we treat people. I know those are not proper terms now, but I do like to think.
They're very welcome here.
I do like to think that the libraries encourage diversity of thought. I mean, every book isn't in English. Every book isn't just a how-to book. Every CD is not just one line music. We think of that, and then we think, okay, well, we do, like in our library, we have a wide range of Asian, we have Chinese, we have Vietnamese, and things like that, library sections. So we are trying to be diverse. We are trying to provide equity. That equity means everybody gets a library card. Come through that door. We don't ask how much money do you make, where do you live. You get a library card, and then inclusiveness. We want the library to be there for everybody, regardless of race, religion, politics, or anything else like that. And I think we do a good job of those things. So to me, and DEI also means if you're wheelchair bound or any other significant mental or physical injury, come on in. It's open for everybody. And I know sometimes we've had those who don't have a home. They're always welcome to the library. Someone come in to cool off. So when I hear all these things about that's bad, but then even in Multnomah County, they open their libraries up as air conditioning systems during the heating thing. So I've gone on too far. But anyway,
One other thing that you need to know about our library is that we survey our entire district. So we're doing that on an annual basis. So we've done a survey of the unincorporated residents. I mean, a formal, statistically properly done external survey. So we get feedback, and this board looks at that feedback, and we amend our programs and are attempting to change that to get better outreach. So we have mail-in, we have meals delivers books to folks for us. We've got a vehicle that's being planned in the next year that will be coming out. We have book lockers in our rural areas so that we can do drop off and people can return them without having to come to the city. So we are very sensitive to, I live in unincorporated, and so does Cynthia, are very sensitive to those issues. So I think that the notion that we're not paying attention is just not the case here.
And I will say, Happy Valley, we did something about 3 years ago. We went out and we said, okay, who is it? And then we increased some of the programs, like the mask is not part of Happy Valley. It's unincorporated boring. Is not part of Happy Valley, but so we made efforts to go into those communities. They aren't big communities, much like a lot of the areas, but between Happy Valley and Sandy, there are no libraries. So we, under Doris' leadership, we did a survey. We found out that some of those people said, we like the library, we have a hard time getting there. For instance, people who are transportation is an issue for them. So we made an effort to say, okay, how do we can do programs? How do we do programs at senior facilities as well? That was a big item, because all the senior facilities, there are people in there. They aren't all people just, going through dementia. There are a lot of seniors who are just immobile and can't get out. So Doris, to her credit, along with some of the librarians, said, okay, we're going to visit these places weekly or every other week. And so, yes, I think doing surveys opens the eye to say, hey, there is a need, and how do we fulfill that need? So I appreciate all that you're doing as a board. I appreciate Greg, both of these, for helping write this thing. Like I said, we had the best of intentions. We really did when we started on this. And so as a result now, 5.5 years later, we're finally getting to things. And David, I thank you very much for sitting in all those meetings. I know sometimes it isn't easy when he's sitting there. There's no comment period. I specifically let David know. I did think it was wise if we had a 3-minute comment period for people who are sitting there to say, we should embrace if they come to these meetings. I know some of them raise their hand quite a bit during the first meeting, but if they come to the meeting, they should have a say in what they're hearing. But
You've got the feedback there.
right. So, well, I will leave because you have other important business.
Thanks for your time, Al.
All right, thank you very much for all that you do.
See you at the next meeting and then you'll back.
Thank you.
All right, the next is the library director's report. Greg?
Yes, thank you, David. Not a whole bunch to talk about today. August was, I wasn't here for a long time. The triple threat of a long vacation, COVID, and sending myself off to college. The most important thing is Jake's at school. So it's been 4 days that we've been doing this. We are having a pretty tough time with it, but it gets a little easier every day. It's very quiet. What I put in your packet, I did put in, this is the first year we got free, they re-divided library distribution. So we got our third distribution, it was in July, but it gets credited towards last fiscal year. It was more than we anticipated. And for the year, or actually for the biennium, it was more than we anticipated. So that made me very happy. I think that combined with the probably not getting as much general fund going forward, that's still where we are. So yes, it was nice to get some extra money, but I think that a lot of that is going to be spoken for over the next, over the next 8 years. So it's not like it bought us, 2 more years or anything like that. Sure. And I do plan in the next couple of months to update our financial forecast and bring that to you all to let you know. The other thing I mentioned there is September is National Library Card Sign-Up Month. And so we are doing some fun things. We decided we are going to experiment with putting something in the utility bill mailers. And now that does only go to city residents. So we are cognizant that is, not our entire service area, but we've never tried it before. And we figured it would be a good pilot to kind of see what kind of response we get. Cost-wise, it was much less than we thought it was going to be. About $600, to
600-700
households. And so we're just putting the bookmark to encourage people to sign up for a library card or the QR code. We'll be able to track anybody who scans that QR code, so we will know actually use that bookmark.
Just occurs to me, we got to try Clearford Communication as well to see if we can put it in their bills, because that's where we get our internet through, and they have a broader reach than just the city.
Yeah, that's great. We've looked at doing the postal service. I think I remember I brought that into, and it's tough, to kind of target. The boundaries don't really, but that is great.
Also, the Clackamas water conservation, because that'll be water and sewer for.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
We can certainly reach out to them.
Reach and check.
And then I didn't get this in the packet. We've been working on it. We should have a proclamation read at the September 3rd City Commission meeting for Library Card Sign-Up Month. And we are also going to do Fine Free September. in our library card sign up month, where we'll let people know that for the month of September that overdue fines will not be assessed on materials, and if they have, we do this the other 11 months of the year as well, but we will again remind people that if they have balances on their card which are preventing them from using the library, please come in and talk to us. We're gonna help you take care of those. So
and just related to the signups, I'd just be curious when we get some of the student sign up information, kind of comparing those numbers from last year to this year and lessons learned. So I just know because I just registered my son and pushed that button.
yes, I remember Barrett just sent out an email saying that I will make sure that in the next couple of months.
Yeah, and it's
I would to set expectations. I believe the way they're doing it is like, we knew we were going to get that really big bump last year, and then now I believe it's, if you're already signed up for it, you don't tell us otherwise. It stays.
I mean, I had to push the button again when I did registrations.
Oh, okay. Well,
as a parent, that's what I can report from the user end.
Okay. Well, then the numbers should.
Yeah.
There should still be, if we get similar take-up rates, there should be the same. But yeah, all in there.
Yeah, like we got a message that it was ending on August 31st, last year's. And then it said to push, during registration to make a good sign.
Well, and I know.
Follow-up email saying it's been renewed. So yeah, you do have to.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's okay. That's good to know. And I also know they did get it configured this last year that if somebody misses the sign-up date, they can still do it. And I think the same week that they're doing an upload every week after you do registrations. Yeah, I will.
And if nobody's registered, there's my PSA, please register your children for school.
So those are our library card sign up month, and then I didn't get it in there, but during August we also had two really great outreach events. So Denise, would you like to share just a small bit about our fun events that we had?
Yes. So for the first time ever, we attended First City, and I think that
It's the first time you've
the first time yes. Yep. So we had a booth all day, and we brought the book bike down. So I think that did I hear there was over 4,000?
There's 4 to 6, so
4,000 to 6,000 people there. So
the number. So yes, there was. I mean, there was nothing, no way to officially track it.
Yeah, so I feel like it was very beneficial. I think that we made a lot of good connections. So I think that it is an event that in the future we should continue to do.
And we'll pass that on to the planning committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please let the planning board here now.
Yeah, right. I do have a little bit of feedback for you after.
Absolutely.
And then we attended National Night Out, which we do every year. Again, great interactions. At both events, we gave away just a ton of free books. We took some leftover craft supplies and creative kits and so forth. So yeah, this year was a little bit different for National Night Out. They had a movie immediately afterwards. So they were
Pass around your picture. That's Denise at the First City on the bike there.
I didn't know you took a picture.
I'm sure I asked you.
So yeah, I think that both were very successful. I think that the staff had a lot of fun at both of them. We made great connections, and I think.
Do we know as far as the back to school nights and some of those things?
Yeah, Barrett and Jessica are going. There's something Thursday. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Going tomorrow.
Okay, good.
So they will be there.
That's a district-wide one, so that's a good one.
And yeah, honestly, since I've been gone, so I haven't checked in. But I know
there's a lot, so it's like one of those, like it's overwhelming. But I always encourage that connection as much as possible.
They've attended a couple different things.
Yeah.
They went to the teacher in service. Barrett gave a little presentation with Doug, the school librarian, and so yeah, they're pretty actively
and I know we haven't introduced her all to bring her to the next meeting, but I can't remember if I mentioned Jessica, our new services librarian. She is also a former teacher. She started life as a school teacher, got her, and also she's been a school librarian, so she has very good connections and understanding of.
And in our bond planning, Jessica and Barrett came to walk through our elementary schools.
Yes.
Give input on what the library placement and how that would look in a school that we want to plan for the future of. So there's a good little feedback that was shared. Our connections.
So anything else?
Any questions or feedback? I know I attended with my grandson one of the art workshops.
Oh.
It was packed, and it
Yeah.
was really wonderful. I mean, really well done. We had a good time.
Good.
Yeah.
Did you want to mention we did reschedule our end of summer program because it was 97 plus degrees out, so that is been rescheduled to September 7th from 3 to 5.
Great. All right. Okay. Moving on, communications. So just one quick announcement. Cynthia has graciously agreed to sort of be our liaison to the hamlet of Beaver Creek. They reached out to Greg saying we'd like to have somebody from the library come out more regularly. And since it's a mile from her house and she drives by, she's been.
Yeah, I'm going actually to my first meeting. I've been to those meetings before, but as a library rep, I'm going to go tonight.
Yeah.
They're meeting tonight. So
Perfect. Okay, so friends.
The Friends meeting, in addition to a bunch of administrative things, they planned for serving the ice cream, which obviously didn't happen. And I'm assuming that they are rescheduling that, their own effort.
Yes.
They did a survey of users of the bookstore, and everything came out absolutely tops. I think that the most telling compliment was somebody who ran a library bookstore, Friends bookstore, and pointed out that they had never seen anything as great as what we had. The standard questions, everybody was satisfied, everybody would recommend it to their friends. And the most common way to locate the bookstore was via the mural around the front. That was commented on in several places. And the most amazing thing, I think, of the meeting was there were no requests or authorizations for money. I think that's only the second time.
I was half a plan of the way. So.
Good, thank you. Foundation.
well, as you know, the foundation meets on Thursday, so we meet after this meeting, but we did not meet last month. And but we are going full steam ahead with taking a look at a campaign Beyond the Walls and what that might look like, what it would focus on. How often do we want to fundraise for, the kind of outreach activities that the library is focusing on? So I expect that we're going to have a fairly full presentation about that tomorrow night. So I'll be able to tell you more in the future.
Great. Thank you. And the teens and kiddos.
Yeah, so they don't meet for July and August, but they did hold interviews earlier this month. And they have selected new members, and they have their largest group of TAC membership ever. So they have 16 returning and new members, and they'll have their first meeting on September 23rd.
Good, thank you. And Pam?
I muted. I'm hoping to make it to the event on September 8th on my calendar.
Good. And LDAC would be the last, and the next LDAC meeting is in about a week.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah. And so I'll be attending that, and I'll be able to report back next meeting. You want to talk about this at all? Just
Yes, I got caught up from being gone. Did you have a tool?
yeah, it's there. October 4th.
It's October 4th.
Okay, all right.
The Parks is doing, prior to that, doing a fall fest. which will take part on 6th Street. They'll have 6th Street between John Adams and Washington closed and then partially closed in front of our building. They'll have vendor booths and so forth.
We're hoping that are we allowed to mention the PZ?
Yes, that they're trying to arrange that, yes.
We're going to arrange a petting zoo. So
Well, that's out there. They have that information, like.
Yeah. So it's running on our ground.
Yes,
Oh, is that part of it?
Yeah, yes.
we're all very excited at the thought of having a petting zoo right outside the kids.
Yeah, and then doing some sort of story time circle to go along with the animals. And then, the volunteer event will be immediately after over at the Pioneer Center. They are asking that we submit some pictures, so I would love to take all your pictures at this meeting to submit. But yeah.
I have a nice shirt. I'll put it on.
All right, anything else for the good of the order? No? Thank you. Yeah, we done it by 6 o'clock. Amazing. Meeting is adjourned.
Okay.